Just as he walked through the door, a security guard stopped him. "Hey, kid, hold up a sec," he said. "You can't have pets in here, and what are you doing with that sword?" Oh snap, Carter thought. He totally forgot about his sword strapped on his back. Next to that, he had no explanation for why he was all alone, except with Sadie Bird, and he couldn't tell him the truth. Just when it seemed hopeless, and the guard was going to arrest him, he heard, "Ah, Cotton dear, there you are." Boss had come in the nick of time, and for some reason, she had changed into a pantsuit and matching jacket. "Kata, I told you to wait," she said, "and I was going to carry the bed." "Excuse me, ma'am, is he yours?" the guard asked. "Why, yes, officer," she answered. "I am his—" "Aunt," Carter rushed in. "She's my aunt. Aunt Kitty." She made a face at him like, "I'll get you for that later." "Anyway," the guard said, "you can't have that bird in here, and that's..." "Ah, yes, the bird," Boss said. "I have the paperwork here." She handed him a sheet of paper and their tickets. The cop took a long look at the paperwork. Carter had no idea what the paper might have said, but the cop just said, "You bought a first-class ticket for your bird?" he asked. "Yes, always," Boss said. "We're headed for a falconry competition in Memphis, and we don't want to be late." Before he could reply, she just pulled Carter away and around a corner. She told Carter the Sett animal was going to catch up if they didn't hurry and get on the plane. Carter mentioned how Sadie had trouble changing back. "Well, we're short for time, so we can figure it out on the plane," Boss said. "Where did you get those clothes?" Carter asked. "And that paperwork?" "Oh, just a few glamour tricks, dear," she said. "Mortal minds are weak. I'm still in my favorite jumpsuit, and that paperwork was actually just an old brochure from the stands. Now, let's work on storing that sword of yours in the duat." "What?" "Carter, you really don't expect them to let you carry that sword through the security check, do you?" "It's quite simple. All you have to do is imagine a space in front of you and place the object there, like a shelf or a treasure chest, or..." "A locker?" Carter asked excitingly. "I always wanted a locker." Boss said. "Just think of a combination and stuff it in. When you need it again, just call it to mind." Carter took a moment to picture the locker. He had no trouble choosing the combination. He picked 13, 32, 33, the numbers of his 3 favorite basketball stars. He held out his sword and bag, and they disappeared in a glowing light. "Whoa, cool," he said. "You sure I can get it back?" "Maybe," Boss answered, "if you practice more. Now come on." They were just getting through the security check when behind them they heard what sounded like a bunch of bags thrown everywhere down the hall. A few cops went to check it out when someone yelled, "Moose! Rabid moose!" "Moose?" Carter asked. "It's here," Boss said. "Well, we have to stop it," Carter said. "Carter, no. The Sett animal cannot be beaten," Boss warned. "I barely made it out back there." Carter wasn't sure what came over him, but he couldn't just let the monster hurt all these people here. He took out his sword from the duat and ran to the monster. "Hey, Sett animal, over here!" he shouted. "Hey, could your master not think of a better name for you? Sett animal's kind of lame, don't you think? How about I just call you Leroy?" The monster didn't seem to like that. As they ran toward him, Carter willed his mystic avatar to life. "Get the moose, chicken man!" a little girl shouted. Well, that was just great, Carter thought. He could only hope Sadie didn't hear that, or that he didn't wake up tomorrow to find the news report saying, "Mysterious giant chicken man saves airport from mad moose." They wrestled. They brawled. Carter swung his mystic sword. Leroy pushed him away like a bull, causing Carter's avatar to fade away. Then Carter thought of something else. He waited for Leroy to get closer, then he shouted out his locker number. 13, 32, 33. His locker portal opened up in front of him. Without time to react, Leroy jumped through the portal, and it shut behind him, trapping him in the duat. Carter only just remembered he had left his bag in there and wasn't sure how he was going to take it out with the dog in the way. But at that moment, it hardly mattered, because Carter couldn't stop breathing heavily and his head felt hot. He fell to his knees, and everything went black. Carter seemed to fall into another bot trip again, and he saw Sett again with face of horror standing next to him. It looked like they were in some large cave. Down below them was a large, nearly completed pyramid made up of bright red bricks. But that wasn't the scary part. Demons were pounding tools and moving bricks here and there. Those demons were probably the most bizarre-looking creatures Carter ever saw. Where their heads should have been were dangerous-looking tools or weapons. Some had sword blades or daggers or spearheads, others had hammers or axes or saw blades. Hanging above them was what looked like the top part of the pyramid, shimmering in gold.
"Those brats are stronger than we thought," Sett said. "They've imprisoned my pet and are currently under the protection of Mother Nut. We must be finished by sunrise on my birthday, Face of Horror. No later than that."
"Yes, my lord," the demon answered. "But if I may ask, what are we to do with the prisoner?"
"I think it's time for a little family reunion," Sett answered. "Wouldn't you like to see your uncle again, boy?"
They reached for Carter, and Carter woke up. He woke to find himself in the back seat of a convertible parked in front of a university building somewhere in Memphis. Boss was in the driver's seat, and next to her, Sadie was back in full human form.
"Well, it's about time you woke up," Sadie complained. "Me and Boss both had to carry you in and out of the plane and all the way to the car rental place. We were just lucky no one asked questions. That wasn't fun. What took you so long?"
You're human again," Carter said.
"So you finally noticed,"
she said sarcastically.
"She changed almost immediately after you passed out," Boss said. "You had your sister worried, Carter." "And it was our secret," Sadie complained.
"Sadie, you worried about me?" Carter asked. She blushed and said,
"Or I was just scared of the idea that I might have to take on the rest of this mission alone."
"Also, I took your advice. It only took longer than I thought." Carter sensed it was more than that, but he wasn't going to force it out of her, so he changed the subject and told them about his bot trip. He told them about the underground pyramid and the deadline. He also mentioned that while he was there, he felt his dad's presence, like he was somewhere in the cave, maybe entombed inside the pyramid.
"You think maybe that's where they're keeping him?" Sadie asked. "How do we get in there?"
"It might be best to ask Thoth when we get inside," Boss said.
When they walked in, they heard what sounded like a screaming monkey down the halls. When all of a sudden, a golden baboon jumped into Sadie's arms.
"Khufu, you're alive!"
she exclaimed. Khufu went on grunting, and Boss translated for them.
"He says he apologizes for not finding you sooner," she said. "He also says after he fell into the river and swam back, he returned to the mansion to look for you, but we were already gone by the time he got back. He says he waited for you there for at least a day, but since no one returned, he decided to seek help from Thoth. Baboons are under the protection of Thoth after all. He also says he can take you to him. While you're at it, I'm going back to fetch us a new ride. Don't worry, I'll be back just in time when you get out, if you get out."
"What?" Carter asked. But she already turned the corner, and Khufu nudged both Carter and Sadie in the opposite direction. Khufu led them into a room with cubicle office spaces. The strangest part was that all the desks were occupied by crane birds. Khufu gestured them over to a door that said, "Dr. Thoth." Inside was not what they expected. They half expected an extra tall man with a bird's head. Instead, they found a regular-sized man dressed in a lab coat and glasses. His hair looked like Einstein's, only in blonde, and he seemed to be somewhere in his 30s. The strangest part was his eyes. His eyes were not normal. In fact, his pupils had patterns inside them, ones that kept changing and making different shapes and colors, like inside of a kaleidoscope. The man had kaleidoscope eyes. "Oh, Horus, Isis, there you are," the man said. "I see you found some new bodies. How are you getting used to them?" "What? Oh, no," Sadie said. "No, we're not—" "Oh, I see. You're trying to share space now," the man guessed. "Don't think you have me fooled, Isis. I know you're in charge." "What? No," Sadie argued. "She's not in charge. I'm Sadie Kane. I take it you're Thoth?" "Well, of course I am," he answered. "How could you claim not to know me?" "Thoth, master of knowledge. Also known as Jehudi, or Jehudi," Sadie giggled. "Which happens to be a perfectly exceptional name back in ancient Egypt," Thoth said. "Though I suppose I've had worse, like the one time the Greeks got me confused with their messenger guy Hermes, which I found incredibly stupid since we're nothing alike. Anyway, you really claim to be Sadie Kane, huh? And I suppose you're not Horus?" he asked, looking at Carter. I'm her brother, Carter," he answered. "Anyway, you think you could help us defeat Sett?" "You really had the guts to ask that?" Thoth argued. "After what happened last time?" Last time?" Carter asked. "To avenge Osiris's death," Thoth explained, "Horus challenged Sett to a duel, and the winner would become king of the gods. Of course, without my help, you would have died. Even so, Sett still took Horus's eye. Lucky for him, I replaced it with a new one I made out of moonlight. Even after all that, Horus and Isis almost killed each other. But that's pretty predictable when you're around Sett, Lord of Chaos, influencing others with chaos. To make a long story short, Sadie Kane, you might think you're in control, but it won't last. Isis is power hungry." "I can contain her," Sadie said. "Really?" Thoth asked. "Did you know it was because of her that Sett got out of control, or that she exiled Ra?" "Wait, I thought that was because he was old and ready to retire already," said Carter. "Well, that was part of it," Thoth answered. "Isis was impatient and wanted Osiris to rule, so she slipped a poisonous snake in Ra's bed. And yes, if you do it right, gods can die. Isis offered Ra a chance to be saved. All he had to do was give her his secret name." "His secret name?" Carter asked. "Yes," said Thoth. "Everything in creation has its own secret name, even if one goes through life never knowing it themselves. To have knowledge of one's secret name is to possess power over one's will. Ra was in so much pain he told her his secret name, but in doing so, Isis gained power over him. Therefore, she was able to force Ra to retreat to the heavens, and she made room for her beloved to become king. Sett was such a loyal lieutenant to Ra that this ended up upsetting Sett, and that's one of the biggest reasons they became enemies. And now, here we are still fighting over the same war, no thanks to Isis." "No," Sadie said. "This time's different. Believe me, I am in control, not Isis. We need to stop Sett. He's planning to take over America, possibly the whole world. Plus, we need to save our father from him. We can't just let him get away with all this. You do care about balance, don't you?" "Let me ask you this, Miss Kane," Thoth said. "Have you ever considered why your father left you in this position?" I think it had something to do with my mom," Sadie said. Sadie told Thoth about her conversation with Iskandar, and how he told her that her mom saw the future. She also remembered how Iskandar explained how gods have great power, but mortals have creativity. Maybe that made her mom realize that someday the gods and mortals would need each other, need to work together, maybe for something big, maybe something dangerous. "And just what might that dangerous thing be?" Thoth asked. "Sett, maybe?" "Maybe," Sadie said. "Or something else? I'm not sure." Being unsure of something isn't like Isis at all," Thoth said. "Maybe she isn't in control after all. Alright, tell you what. I'll put you two to a simple test, one that'll help us to see whether or not you are in control of your gods and not repeating their past mistakes. If you could pass, I'll kindly explain that spell book of mine in your bag." Great. Okay, so, what do we do?" Carter asked.